Tuning in to the online broadcast network, AFTERBUZZ TV. Over 20 million weekly downloads in over 150 countries, and your #1 source for after-show entertainment. AFTERBUZZ TV, the destination for TV superfans. Producing after shows for over 300 of your favorite TV shows, interviewing celebrities and showrunners, and bringing you behind-the-scenes exclusives. All thanks to E! Entertainment's Maria Menounos, producer Kevin Undergaro, and internet leader Akamai. Now, let the buzz begin!
What's up, AfterBuzzers? Welcome back to the Mindy Project After Show. Tonight we are talking about Season 4, Episode 13, When Danny Met Mindy. Obviously named after the famous movie When Harry Met Sally.
Yeah.
Which I thought would have been a good idea last week, because they talked about When Harry Met Sally last week a lot. Anyway, side note. Make sure you're following all of us at AfterBuzz TV, Twitter, download on iTunes, SoundCloud. Be sure to rate, comment, like us. We definitely want to hear what you have to say. You can find me on Twitter at April Whisenhant, Instagram, everywhere else. Where can they find y'all?
But you can find me at the Only Camshaft, Twitter and Instagram.
And you can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Rockin' Mama Life.
Heck yeah.
Much better Twitter handle than mine.
I know, mine's my name. I'm very creative, much like Mindy Kaling. That's hers. Tweet us throughout the show. I have my Twitter up, trying to get the live chat running right now. What'd y'all think about tonight?
Oh my God, I don't know what to say.
I know.
At the end of this
good.
thing, it's got me like simultaneously happy but crying but sad, and I don't know how to feel about it.
It's very confusing because, y'all know, my notes almost every week just consist of quotes and the funny stuff, and I just have one this week. Not that it wasn't a funny episode at times, for sure. Yeah, but it's like it was a different kind of episode.
Yeah.
But let's just get into it. So it starts off with Danny and Mindy are fighting over everything. It's all turning back into you should stay at home, or how many babies should we have, and you know, that kind of fight. And it's the dumbest stuff is turning into it. They're like talking about the little lamb being in the manger, and just kind of crazy stuff that turns into a bigger issue when you're in a big tension-filled moment, kind of like that. And so this all kind of takes Mindy back to a vision, or not a vision, I guess, like a memory, a flashback, of when Danny and her first met, which I loved. And I'm not gonna lie, the first thing that popped into my mind was I was like, oh good, it won't be about the baby.
No, I agree. Because it reminded me a lot of like early Mindy Project when they were butting heads all the time.
Right.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, isn't good for them to do all the time, clearly, because they're engaged. And whenever, I kind of don't like when shows make it all about the arguing and that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But I was just like, oh, it's going to be back to what it was. And, we kind of did get that for a little while.
Yeah.
I thought it was hard, though. I kept thinking, like, how hard it must be for them as characters to film, like, that kind of flashback. Because when they first started the show, their relationship was this, like, love-hate banter.
Yeah.
And now it's so much deeper, especially, like, Danny. I feel like we've seen a lot more of him. And for him to have to, like, pull that all back and just be that, like, snarky kind of one-level character must have been really hard, like, filming. That's why I kept thinking, like, as I was, like, watching him, like, in those scenes, being like, how hard it must have been for him to try to, like, pare that side of him back.
Yeah.
That's true. So they meet in an elevator, we find out, which is Mindy's kind of ultimate thing. That's how she met her ex-boyfriend, you remember, from, like, the first season.
Yeah.
And it's because Danny doesn't hold the elevator for her. He thinks that they've hooked up before, and they kind of just are back to or not back to, this is the first time they've ever met. So they begin their little snarky, narky relationship. And then they figure out quickly that, oh, they're getting off at the same floor, and it's Mindy's first day at her new job there. So this is kind of, the first day that they met ever was when they started working together, which I thought was kind of cool because,
I liked it because I don't think I remembered that we didn't see this to begin with.
Me either. I just
until
kind of
it
thought they
started
always knew each
unfolding.
other.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I don't know, it was fun.
We
was
saw
fun.
some familiar faces. Dr. Schulman was back.
I know.
We still didn't see the other girls that I've been wondering what happened to that just
Anna Camp
disappeared.
and all them, yeah.
Yeah, and the two girls that work there, Betsy and then I forget the girl from the first season. But
Yeah.
anyway, so Danny quickly decides that he doesn't like Mindy and that he tells Dr. Schulman to fire her, and he says...
Well, because they accidentally hired her.
Exactly.
Which is hilarious.
They thought that he thought he was hiring like a
Mandy
man
Lahoro or
from,
something like that.
the super animal.
I love that, like, that. So Dr. Schulman hasn't been in the show for a while.
Right.
But they can still write something for a character that's not really in the show that's appropriate to the character and the show.
And it makes sense.
Yeah, I think that that's great.
I do too.
Because it's totally believable that he would just do that.
Exactly.
So fun.
But so he was looking between the two people. He, I think, couldn't find his glasses or something like that. So so he hired Mindy. So Danny says, "Well, let's just fire her." And he says, you can't just fire a woman of color anymore. It's been a long time, at least 3 years or something like that. So Danny, starts to work up some mastermind plan about how he's going to make Mindy want to quit. So he takes her to her office, and it's a storage closet, but, in typical Mindy fashion, she's all like, "Oh, no, this is fine. We'll figure it out," as she falls into a box. And
She painted like a TMZ.
I love the TMZ on the fake
Computer.
cardboard computer.
Who is that new cute doctor? Oh, wow, this website's
so
awesome. And so she's asking how to get patients, and Jeremy says to set up her profile on their little website. And I forget how she gets into Danny's office or why she goes in there, but she breaks his glasses. She sees that, or learns that he's going through therapy, which a big part of when Mindy and Danny first kind of started becoming friends was her really being able to help him out with all of their therapy stuff that him and Christina were going through, and they actually had a friendship. Anyway, long story short, kind of the whole message of, or part of the flashback was that Mindy ends up taking one of Danny's patients. Not taking the patient, but he needed to go to therapy.
She took the patient.
She took the patient. He needed to go to therapy. He wanted Jeremy to sit in, but she got on his computer and pretended to be Jeremy and did it instead. So, that's... what are you gonna do? She broke his glasses while she was... Oh, that was what I was thinking of. Whenever she was in Danny's office and he walked in, she was trying to hide. And then whenever he walks out, she's about to get away with it. And then you hear her step on his glasses and break them. And I love that, though, because the red glasses that snap in the middle have been a huge thing since, like, season 1, episode 1. So we even learned their origin tonight.
Yeah.
It was awesome.
No, I think it was a really well-written episode for those reasons, among other things. It's because that you have all those flashbacks, or like not even flashbacks, but like what do they call those in movies? They're like hidden eggs or something.
Yeah,
What is it
I know
called?
what you're talking about. I don't know what it's called.
Gosh darn it!
Why are you only looking at her when you're asked
I
that?
don't know. I don't know.
Like,
That's a
I don't
very
know
good
about movie
question.
stuff. No,
There's,
okay.
That's a good question,
not
April.
secret little things.
Yeah, well,
but
like-
kind of.
Like whenever there's like a Pixar movie and they put things in there that reference other Pixar movies. What are those called?
Right.
Eggs? Not
I don't
eggs.
know. That sounds good enough to me.
Yeah.
We'll go with it.
They put those little eggs in there.
They put eggs, but there's a bunch of the eggs
Yeah.
in the episode.
Lots and lots of
Gosh
eggs
darn it.
tonight.
Yes.
So Mindy delivers his patient, and the patient's really nervous because Danny was going to give her a C-section.
Yeah.
But she has this cool new method, the
somersault.
The somersault, where it can be a natural delivery, and the patients are just much happier with that. So Danny
And the baby comes out a gymnast, according to her.
Exactly. I mean, obviously, if you're doing it, I literally, as she was describing that, she's like, you take it, and instead of going over the head, you pull it down and around the body, and I'm like, picturing it as she was talking about it, and it kind of seemed correct. But anyway, so Danny comes to the hospital later, finds out that it was Mindy and not Jeremy that delivered his patient. And so he immediately confronts her and says, "I'm going to get you fired. Are you kidding me? This is a fireable offense." She's upset at first, but then he goes and talks to the patient and realizes that they love Mindy.
Because she's a rock star.
Exactly.
And quoted Fat
she's
Albert
joking,
when she
yeah.
was delivering the baby. Who doesn't love that?
And that's what's been Mindy's thing for forever. She, is kind of crazy and kooky in other ways, but she's ultimately a good doctor. And I think that's what they really wanted us to see in this episode. Not that we haven't known that before, but they kind of wanted us to get back to this is what she, you know, truly is, and this is where she started.
Yeah.
And so Danny realizes that, okay, maybe I've messed up, the patients like her, and goes to her and tries to talk her into staying, because at this point she's like, I don't even want to be here anymore. You're terrible, you know, like, everyone has such a bad attitude. And he kind of gives her a little pep talk and says, don't ever let anyone stand.
Yeah.
So important. Don't ever let anyone stand in your way of doing what you want to do, not even me.
Yeah, I wrote
And
that
I'm like,
down. He said, you're great at this. Don't ever let anyone try to stop you from doing what you want, not even me, which is like...
And it's
brings
just
so true to today.
it's leading to so many bad things, I feel
It's
like.
so
No,
upsetting.
It's good things. I don't
Good
know.
things?
I think, yeah.
You think so?
Yeah. The reason
Fingers
why
crossed.
is because I think that just like, and we talked about this a little bit, I mean, Danny is a jerk.
Sometimes.
He's a jerk. And he's stubborn, and he's not going to see what Mindy is saying to him until he's forced to. Just like when the conversation they had when on her first day, he said to her, we're not colleagues, you're a joke, Mindy.
Right.
Which is like so harsh and cruel.
He says some of the worst
He's
things
horrible
to
to her. Yeah.
But he doesn't realize that he's horrible until she puts him in his place, and it's kind of like, don't realize what you have until it's gone. And when she's like, screw you, I'm leaving, is when he's like, wait a minute, you're really great at this, you should stay. And he kind of realizes what he's been saying and doing. And I think that whole parallel is paralleling what's happening now in their relationship. And I think there's no way, I mean, she can say till she's blue in her face, like, I want to work, it's important to me. He's not going to hear it until she walks away. Until she leaves him. He's not going to hear it.
Oh, God, that pains me to even think about.
I mean, I love that Mindy's sticking to her guns, but I'm so upset.
Yeah. Well, okay.
Really?
I don't think that that's necessarily the case. This is why I don't.
Ooh,
So,
what do you think?
Okay, still in the flashback portion, they make a little bet, because nothing that he was saying was going to talk her into staying. And he says, okay, if we measure this, you know, huge armoire that you got to go in here, and the dresser and all your furniture, and it fits, then you stay. And she says, okay, you know, and they just kind of like a little joke thing. But she measures it, and it all fits, so she ends up staying. And then we go back to present time, and they're just laying in bed, and she gets up and she measures Leo's crib, and it's like 30 by 54, I think, or something like that.
Yeah.
And then she goes to her old apartment, which was a source of contention earlier in the episode, because Danny's like, why do you even still have your apartment? You know, no one's going to buy it. You're selling it for $10 million and a celebrity buyer only. And, you know, they haven't really discussed why she still has her apartment. It came up briefly, but not really at the same time. So she goes to her old apartment, and we see her measuring the closet, and it fits the crib, because it's 31 by 54 or something like that. So then, you know, she sits by the door and is crying and so upset and everything. But now that I say that she was sitting and crying, it makes a little more sense the other way. She took down the for sale thing, for sale sign, but I thought she did it because she was like, okay, this is, my life fits into this apartment. This is something that's very important to me. So let's just move, like, that'll be a thing for her. Like, okay, he gets all this other stuff, but like, let's move into my apartment and keep this part of me.
But then I don't think she'd be crying.
Yeah.
Well,
It's possible.
Yeah, as soon as I said that, the crying thing, I was like, oh wait, no, that
I
doesn't make so much
thought when
sense
we were
anymore.
watching, I thought that that she was going to her office and measuring
That's what I thought at first too. When she
the
was
room
measuring.
that they ended up putting all the boxes in the flashback. I thought she was measuring in there. I'm like, oh God, perfect solution. You just have like a nursery in your office
that's what
at
I thought
work.
at first, and then when it was her apartment, and then I was like, nope, it's, you know, like Danny said, like, if it fits, then you stay. And I think it was like her waking up in the middle of the night being like, I'm never gonna leave and do what I need. And then she thought of like that flashback, and she's like, well, if the crib fits, then I can do it on my own. I'm gonna do it on my own. And that's kind of what I saw as like that ending.
The reason why it's so tough for me to think that way, I guess, is because it seems too like quick for her to be at that decision. I mean, obviously they've been arguing about this for several episodes now, and it was huge tonight. You know, this is like over a month that we see every little thing is turning into an argument. But it just seemed a little like, oh wait, you're just gonna leave. It seems just a little too. I mean, he didn't call off the engagement, but he called off the wedding for now.
Yeah.
I don't know. So I guess it just seems like a little, already. But I don't know.
I have a question for you guys. Do you, knowing what we know about what we think is going to happen as a result of what we saw, do you have a preference between single Mindy who's dating around and Mindy who's committed to Danny?
I do sometimes, because I loved whenever her and Danny finally got together on the show.
Right.
And I loved all aspects of their relationship too, but I also thought it was fun seeing her, you know, I loved Pastor Casey. He was like my favorite. Yeah. So I loved seeing those kind of different aspects of her, but the whole time I wanted her and Danny to be together. So it's not that I think it's because now I'm just like in pain, because whenever her and Danny would fight, then it was like, oh, fine, whatever, they'll end up getting over it, even though he says some, you know, really hurtful things. But it also can't always lead to Mindy having to leave or threaten to leave in order for Danny to be okay. I just thought about that too. I don't know. Do y'all have a preference?
I hope that it gets to a place where Danny and Mindy are like fine, because like another show that has a parallel to The Office, Pam and Jim, right? So there was 3 seasons of will they be together or not be together, and then finally they were together, and it's like, well, where's this tension now? But they figured out a way to have both of them still have problems in the office and whatever. There's other characters, and so I hope that they can get to a point where it's not like one problem is I'm single and Danny and I are we going to be together, and then they're together, and now the issue is Danny and I are fighting. I hope that it gets to a point where they're stable and there's still plot to happen.
Yeah.
You know, with her in the office and him in the office or whatever it may be, without necessarily tragedy striking, because it's like Danny's dad is sick and, you know, I'm going to have to leave Danny and the baby.
Well, at the very beginning of this season and even toward the end of last, everything was kind of, you know, amicable and good, and I fully enjoyed that.
I think a lot of the writing this season 2 was driven by Chris Messina doing a lot of film work and not being there. So I think the writers had to kind of find ways to write around that. And I'm hoping when we come back that they won't have to write around that so much. But I do think in terms of like their relationship, they're at a stalemate. And I think that one of the things that we all love about Mindy Project is that they address like real stuff in like a humorous way, and this is like a really real problem that a lot of couples have, that unfortunately, you know, in the first like 1 to 2 years of having children, a lot of couples break up or get divorced because it is so hard. And it's, you can have all the love in the world for somebody, but if you have such different views on like what your home life looks like, it can tear a family apart. And I think that it's really great that they're not sugarcoating it or being like, oh, like this isn't a big deal, because it's a huge deal. I mean, and we see it in the flashback, like her being a doctor is so important to her. It's like a part of who she is, and we've seen in this whole like season her kind of getting away from who she is as a person, and that's why I don't like her with Danny, because I think her as a character, we've lost a lot of like her individuality and independence, and I'm hoping that her leaving Danny, even if it's just temporary, will help her to, you know, get that character back and rebuild a relationship with Danny where she can be Mindy with Danny.
I agree,
Mindy and Danny.
Yeah. I just think it's like, it's so serious for them to do that. So it's like, are they gonna do that? But I think they are. I don't know. It's gonna be crazy.
I am happy though that this show has the flexibility to do things like this.
Yeah.
Instead of being just like the situation comedy that joke, nab, and then everything's fine. That's why I like shows like this, because there's like a warmth to it as well.
Exactly.
And while it's funny most of the time, it deals with some issues every now and then.
Yeah. Well, this issue I don't like.
Especially when there's Sam Smith songs playing at the end
of
the episode.
Like
that I cannot deal with.
Of course I'm going to cry. You play Sam Smith as you're like, no.
Anybody riding in any form of public transportation listening to that song is going to cry.
Exactly.
Just like Mindy.
Only bad things happen.
Brilliance of a show that in like the span of less than like 30 minutes, you can have someone eating the crotch of a gingerbread cookie, being
Yeah.
like, this
Right.
is the best crotch I've ever tasted.
Yes.
And be like crying and like tearing your heartstrings out.
That's true.
Absolutely.
That's
That's why I
very
love
true.
it.
It's like, what?
What was y'all, okay, quickly before we get into news and gossip, what was y'all's favorite moment of the show? Favorite line, I should say. Because I have one, I told y'all before the show, but y'all didn't think it was funny enough, so I need to think of another
Let
one.
me see.
I have two.
Okay.
I
what's
really
yours?
liked how I forget the line specifically, but it was something to the tune of, I just joined this new dating website called Ashley Madison.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And everybody's like, oh.
And Jeremy in the back was like, Ashley.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, that pink suit was amazing.
Yeah, it was.
Amazing.
Oh, yeah, no, that was awesome.
It was like Legally Blonde meets
Yeah.
It was fantastic. I have two.
Oh,
When
yeah?
when she's in the elevator and Danny's like, "Do I know you from somewhere?" and she says, "I was the woman who climaxed during the TSA pat down," which was amazing. Because TSA.
Yeah.
And then the other one was when they were like fighting in the beginning and she's like setting up the nativity and she's like, Jesus grew up in a barn and then he grew up to be the most popular tattoo for Latino men.
Oh, yeah.
True.
Oh my gosh, those were so much better than mine. So
What was yours
I
again?
couldn't think of it while y'all were telling yours, or a new one anyway. But my favorite line is whenever she and Jeremy are in the break room talking and or somewhere talking, and he's trying to tell her, like, hey, let's hook up. And he says, he leans in and says, just so you know, I'm always ready. It's a medical condition. Talking about he's always ready to get it on.
Which, by the way,
I thought that was hilarious.
I loved having old Jeremy back. I think he's gotten kind of lame
Me
lately.
too.
I
much
agree.
prefer
Flashback
player
with like
Jeremy.
the super sleazy player
Just
Jeremy
gonna sleep
was
with
like,
everybody.
Please, can we have him back?
Yeah.
I like that better than Fat Suit Jeremy.
Oh my God, Fatsuit Jeremy was horrible.
No, it's really, really bad. So
So
bad.
wrong.
I also liked how she kept saying that the baby's umbilical cord was fashionable but unsafe. Like
Oh,
she
right.
kept referring to it like as a scarf.
Or it's like a,
was
little chokers.
potentially
People
a
wear the chokers
yes.
now.
It was potentially a serious situation, and she just comes in like that. Yeah, it's fashionable but unsafe.
Yeah.
It's hilarious.
She's always good at that.
Oh, Mindy.
So we have some news and gossip
Oh.
for good old Mindy.
TV News.
Lindsay, you tell
What
us.
do you got?
What do we have? Oh, yeah. Mindy is going to be singing or attempting to sing on the finale of The Muppets. And
Wow.
rumor has it it's pretty hysterical. So
Do y'all remember when Mindy did that commercial for, like, in the Mindy Project?
Oh,
She did, like, the little,
yes.
it's Mindy did
Yes.
And it was the
Yes.
worst thing in the entire world.
awful.
I imagine this to be something like that.
I love
Yes.
it.
Probably.
So I also had another one too.
Oh.
She actually, and this isn't even that exciting, but I thought it was just adorable and hysterical. So
Yeah.
Mindy Kaling went to the March of Dimes celebration for babies on Friday, and she wore this Peter Pilotto dress that her dad actually picked out.
Oh, I love
Like
that.
they were
Aw.
like at lunch and went like shopping after, and he's like, I really like that dress, and she was like, I'm gonna try it on. And she was like, I'm gonna buy it. And he's like, I'll buy it for you. And
that's
she
so
wore it and
sweet.
was like,
I love
yeah, my dad got this.
I
for
don't
her
think I've worn something
so
that my
much.
dad picked out since I
No,
was
never.
three months old, probably, actually.
No.
Something like that. Okay, so predictions now.
Oh.
And now,
There go the
your
lights.
AfterBuzz TV predictions.
Oh, my dear.
I'm going to predict that Mindy may try and do her own thing for a little bit, but I don't think they're going to go too serious with a full-on breakup for Danny and Mindy. That's
Okay.
what I think.
Okay.
I think they might I think maybe they'll start going back to Sleazy Jeremy too.
I hope they go back to
so. I
Sleazy
love
Jeremy because
Sleazy
he's
Jeremy.
funny.
Yeah.
I hope Shulman comes back a few more times because I really like Shulman. And I think that I agree they're gonna be separate for a bit, but they're gonna end up back together pretty quickly.
Yeah.
I think there's gonna be like a trial, open relationship. Let's like go on dates with them.
relationship?
Not necessarily.
I don't think Danny would ever. He's too Catholic.
But like saying, let's take a break for a second. I don't
Yeah.
know. Not
Oh,
open
the
relationship.
famous. We were on a break. I'm rewatching Friends right now. So
I feel
yeah,
like
that's
Danny's
right.
too crotchety to like be on a break. He'd be like, it's either
But
all in or all out.
he's also not in control of the situation anymore.
he's gonna
So,
be
I don't know.
he's
I don't
gonna
know.
be so pissed.
It's gonna be sad.
Yeah.
What do you
he's-
think,
I think he's gonna
Lindsay?
be
Sad,
pissed.
Danny. I think I'm torn because we know like Chris Messina's been doing a lot of filming. He has 2 movies in post-production. He's got one that he's still filming with Ben Affleck. So I really think it depends on what he does. And I think they've written it that way so that they can decide.
Yeah.
But I think what I want to happen is Mindy to leave Danny.
Yeah.
Go to her own apartment, which by the way is way better apartment.
Yeah,
and
we
now
love her
after
apartment.
you've talked, like I think what will end up happening is she'll leave him. It'll be a huge wake up call for him, and there will be some compromises. And I think one of them will be them living in Mindy's apartment.
Because it's so much better.
It's so beautiful.
It is. It's.
I like that.
It's way better.
But could
It's just
she live
dark
without
and-
that huge closet?
I think so.
I don't think I would put a crib. I would just have my baby in like a bassinet so I could still have all the rest of the clothes in there.
Well, the baby will probably eventually move into another room, right?
I guess. I don't know.
In New York City, you raise babies in closets all the time.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
definitely.
It's great.
Okay.
That's
Gives them
the
something to
norm.
write about in like their college applications.
I lived in a closet until I was 6. Oh my gosh. Well, I can't wait until next week. Thank y'all so much for joining us. Once again, you can find us all at AfterBuzz TV, Twitter, Facebook, iTunes, everywhere. Don't forget to subscribe and comment. We want to hear what you have to say. I'm April Whisenhant. You can find me everywhere at April Whisenhant.
You can find me at The Only Camshaft, Twitter and Instagram. Lindsay?
And I'm Lindsay Miller. You can find me at Rockin' Mama Life.
See y'all next week.
Bye-bye.
From executive producers Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and the entire AfterBuzz TV staff, we would like to thank you for listening to the AfterBuzz TV network. To watch or listen to other after shows and post comments or questions, be sure to visit AfterBuzzTV.com. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been a presentation of AfterBuzz TV.
Buzz you later.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.